They accused me of stealing $50,000, so I crashed the family and left them with nothing. I was still clutching the pie when my dad looked me in the eye and told me not to come home again. It was still warm pumpkin, her favorite kind. I'd baked it the night before, using Mom's old recipe. The one with that extra hit of nutmeg and the strange little half-teaspoon of maple syrup she always insisted on using. I'd driven 3 hours through thick fog just to bring it to her, same as I did every Thanksgiving. Before continuing the story, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss new and interesting stories, and to like and share this video with your friends. It was Thanksgiving Day. I was home, or at least, I thought I was. We hadn't even said grace yet. The turkey was still whole. The stuffing was steaming in Mom's fancy crystal dish, the one she only ever pulled out this one day of the year. And there I was, still standing, still smiling, still holding that pie when Dad said, "Give back the $50,000, Morgan, or don't bother coming home again." At first, I thought I'd heard him wrong, or maybe it was some kind of sick joke. My dad wasn't the dramatic type, and Thanksgiving was usually peaceful in our house. Or, it had been, until that night. But no one laughed. Brooke sat straight across from me, hands folded in her lap like she was at a memorial service. Logan kept his eyes glued to the tablecloth. Even Mom's sweet, soft-spoken mom wouldn't meet my gaze. I didn't sit. I couldn't. That pie felt like it weighed 10 pounds in my hands. I glanced down at it, dumbly, like maybe it could explain what the hell was happening. "Excuse me." I managed. Dad's jaw tightened. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. What exactly are you accusing me of?" I asked, voice barely steady. Brooke finally looked up. Her eyes were bloodshot, mascara stuck in the corners like she'd been crying for hours. But her voice came out sharp. "Mom's account. $50,000. It disappeared last month, right after you helped her set up online banking." My mouth opened, but nothing came out. They weren't wrong about one thing. I had helped Mom with her account. She was nervous about going digital. Didn't like the idea of everything being out in the cloud, as she put it. So we sat down one Sunday afternoon and went through it together. The app, the logins, the security questions. She even jotted everything down in this little notepad we kept in the kitchen drawer. That was about a month ago. And now they were standing there telling me that's when I robbed her. "Are you serious?" I whispered. "You really think I stole from Mom?" Logan finally spoke up, his voice stiff like it hurt to say the words. We didn't want to believe it, but the bank confirmed the money was withdrawn online. No one else had the credentials. No one, except you. I turned to look at Mom. She didn't flinch, didn't nod, didn't shake her head. She just lifted her napkin and pressed it against her mouth like she was about to be sick. That's when it hit me. The pie, the long drive, our little family traditions, none of it meant anything now. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was just another suspect. I carefully set the pie down on the edge of the counter. The metal tin made a soft click against the granite. Then I grabbed my coat from the back of the chair where I'd tossed it earlier. I didn't say a word. "You've got until the end of the week," Dad said behind me, his voice low. Then we talked to the lawyer. I didn't cry in the car. Didn't scream or punch the steering wheel like people do in movies. I just drove, my coat still half-buttoned, the pie still sitting untouched in the kitchen behind me. The streets were quiet, lit by porch lights and paper turkeys taped to windows. It was Thanksgiving night, and the whole town smelled like gravy, cinnamon, and peace. Except for me. I pulled into a roadside and I always passed on the way into town, but never once stopped at before the Clark. No one asked why I needed a room on a holiday, and honestly, I was grateful for that. The room smelled like old carpet and microwaved popcorn. I kicked off my boots and sat down on the edge of the bed, hands still trembling. I was 34 years old, a senior forensic accountant trusted with millions in corporate audits, and my own family thought I'd ripped them off. The worst part? I wasn't even shocked. Not completely. There had been signs. Little things. Like the way Brooke would roll her eyes when Mom bragged about my job promotions. Or how Dad once said, "Don't you think it's time to settle down? Maybe live a little?" Like my career wasn't real life to him. Even last Christmas, when I offered to pay for a new roof on their house, Logan muttered something about me trying to buy affection. I thought they were just teasing. I thought we were still a family. I lay back on the comforter and stared at the ceiling. Tried to replay every moment of that day. Mom had asked me to help her with online banking. Every tap, every login, every security answer, we did it together. Had I missed something? Could someone else have gotten into that notebook we kept in the drawer? The drawer. It was never locked. Anyone could have opened it. Brooke still lived at home, on and off, depending on how things were going for her. Logan had a spare key. Sure, I helped Mom set things up. But that didn't mean I was the only one who knew how to get in. Still, they believed it. Believed I waited for Mom to get sick just to take her money. $50,000. Like I even needed it. Like I ever would. My phone buzzed. A text from Brooke. "We didn't want it to come to this, but you made it hard to trust you. No, happy Thanksgiving. No, hope you're okay." Just that. Like I was the one who'd ruined everything. Like I was the one who owed them an apology. I turned the phone face down on the motel nightstand. I spend my days unraveling hidden embezzlement, shell companies, and bogus invoices. I know exactly what it looks like when money vanishes, and when someone works overtime dependent on the wrong person. And right now, it was clear someone had picked me to take the fall. I stared at the ceiling until the cheap motel lights blurred. If they were going to treat me like the criminal in the family, Maybe it was time I started acting like an investigator again. I woke up early the next morning. No alarm. Just habit. Years of chasing corporate fraud had taught me one thing: money never actually disappears. It just gets rerouted. The trick is figuring out where it goes first and who benefits. I poured myself a paper cup of the bitter lobby coffee and opened my laptop on the motel desk. My firm had been digging into a case involving elder financial abuse, retirees with modest savings suddenly drained by a pattern of withdrawals. Always in 3 transactions. Always just under the federal reporting threshold. And while there were several banks involved, one kept showing up more than the others. Ridgeway Financial. Mom's bank. I'd never mentioned to my family that I was part of that investigation. Technically, it was confidential, but I had clearance to review internal data, and I knew exactly who to contact. I fired off a quick message to Gavin, our compliance officer, asking for a very specific date range and branch location. Less than an hour later, I had what I needed. Timestamps. Withdrawal amounts. Teller logs. 3 withdrawals from Mom's account. Each 5 days apart. First, $20,000. Second, $15,000. Third, another $15,000. All done in person, not online. That was the first crack in their story. They'd accused me of stealing the money through Mom's online account because I was supposedly the only one with access. But if the withdrawals were done in person, then it wasn't me. I clicked the link to the attached security footage. Low resolution, but clear enough. The first video loaded: Ridgeway Financial, October 10th, 2:13 p.m. A young woman stepped up to the counter, glancing over her shoulder like she thought someone was following her. Blonde ponytail, gray hoodie, oversized sunglasses. At first, I thought maybe they'd hired someone, a stranger pretending to be Mom. But then she stepped closer to the camera, pulled her mask down to talk to the teller. Brooke. Even with the grainy video, I knew that face like my own. I'd babysat that face, helped it with math homework, watched it cry after high school breakups. She was fidgeting, tapping her nails on the counter like she always did when she was nervous. She handed over what looked like Mom's ID and signed something. Even her handwriting hadn't changed since we were kids. I leaned back in the motel chair, the light above me flickering faintly. They didn't just steal the money. They plotted it out. Timed it perfectly, waiting for me to help Mom go digital, then using that as a cover story to frame me. I opened the second video. October 15th. Same branch. This time, it was Logan. No disguise. No hesitation. Cool, collected. He even joked with the teller. Signed off like it was his own damn account. Third video. Brooke again. Same gray hoodie. Different sunglasses. The sheer nerve of it made my stomach turn. But there was still one thing missing. How the hell did they get Mom's ID and account info? Then it hit me. 2 weeks before I helped Mom set up the banking app, she had outpatient testing at the hospital. Nothing serious, just routine scans. Brooke had offered to stay overnight with her. With her purse, her checkbook, her driver's license, her bank statements. That's where it started. But it didn't end there. I checked the metadata from the online account setup. The very first login after I'd left town? It didn't come from Mom's phone. It came from a tablet connected to the home Wi-Fi. Same IP address Brooke used when she streamed Netflix. Even worse. The OTP, the one-time password, had been sent to an alternate email address. Not the one I helped Mom set up. I looked it up. The recovery phone number? It belonged to Logan. They weren't just reckless. They were smug. They really thought no one would double-check the details. Not if the golden child looked guilty. Not if the rest of the family stuck to one story. I shut the laptop. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a one-time mistake or some desperate loan gone wrong. It was calculated fraud, and they'd used my love for Mom as the bait. I zipped my laptop bag shut and picked up my phone, not to call the cops. Not yet. First, I called my office. I asked Gavin for something specific. The teller signature printouts. I'd need those for comparison. Then I unzipped my suitcase and pulled out a black presentation folder. The kind I usually reserve for court. They wanted a villain in the family? Fine. I'd show them what it looked like when the villain came with receipts. I didn't call ahead. I drove back on Monday afternoon, just as the sunlight hit the house in that perfect golden slant it always caught between Halloween and Christmas. It used to make the place feel like home. Not today. The driveway was packed. Logan's SUV. Brooke's little compact. Mom's old sedan. No guests. Just them. I parked at the curb and sat there for a minute. Engine ticking softly. My hands resting on the folder in my lap. Inside it, every receipt, every timestamp, every lie. They thought no one would notice. Then I stepped out of the car, walked up the porch steps, and let myself inside. The house smelled like chicken broth and rosemary. The kitchen lights were on. I could hear the low hum of voices, the clink of silverware, and a laugh that didn't belong to me anymore. I found them all right where I figured they'd be, clustered in the kitchen like nothing ever happened. Brooke was perched on the counter, coffee mug in hand, legs swinging like she was 13 again. Logan leaned against the fridge, arms folded, face unreadable. Mom stood by the sink, drying dishes with that same steady rhythm she'd used for decades. And Dad was at the stove, stirring something, like this was just another quiet family dinner. They all looked up when I walked in, and everything stopped. No one said a word. I walked right past them to the kitchen island and set the folder down on the same wooden surface where we used to roll out cookie dough. Then I opened it. You really believed I stole from Mom? I said, voice low. Let me show you what actually happened. The air shifted, subtle, tense, like the pressure drop right before a thunderstorm. I pulled out the first photo, a still from the bank's security footage. Brooke in sunglasses, leaning over the counter, signing a form. October 10th, $20,000. Done in person, not online. Not me. No one moved. Not even Brooke. Then I slid the next photo across the island. Logan, smiling in his navy sweater, handing over a check like he was doing something completely ordinary. October 15th, $15,000. I could hear my voice start to shake, not with anger, but from trying to hold it all in. These weren't strangers. These were the people who raised me, laughed with me, watched me grow up. Brooke's hand tightened around her mug. She opened her mouth for a second, then shut it again. I laid down the teller slip next, same branch, same signatures. I matched the handwriting. I said, not looking at her. From that note you left on the fridge last week. Same curls, same spacing. Brooke. A beat passed. Then finally, Brooke's voice, thin, almost defensive. You went through our stuff. I tilted my head slightly. You went through Mom's. Mom reached for the document. Her eyes scanned the print, hands shaky. Her voice was soft, uncertain. But the bank said they told me it was done online. That's what they thought, I said. But the withdrawal itself wasn't. The online access came later. From a tablet connected to your home Wi-Fi. I looked directly at her. The account was set to recover through an email address tied to Logan's phone number. Silence settled across the kitchen like a heavy snowfall. Dad stopped stirring. Brooke looked away. Logan stared at the floor like maybe the truth would shift if he looked hard enough. You let me believe my daughter stole from me, Mom whispered. She wasn't looking at anyone in particular. Maybe not even at me. You told me not to come home, I said, quieter now. And you never even asked if I did it. That was the part that cut the deepest. Not the accusation, not the lawyer talk, but that no one, had asked me if it was true. Brooke finally looked up at me, but there wasn't guilt in her eyes, only bitterness. You always get everything, she snapped. The job, the praise, the respect. I just wanted to even it out. I stared at her, really stared, for the first time, maybe. She looked older than she did last week. Or maybe I was just seeing her clearly now. You didn't even the field, I said. You torched it. Logan cleared his throat, his voice flat and casual. She'll be fine, Mom. Morgan makes more than all of us combined. It wasn't personal. I let out a breath, slow and tight. It's always personal when it's family. I watched Mom sink into one of the kitchen chairs. The folder was still open in front of her, but she didn't touch it. Her hands sat in her lap, palms up, like she didn't know what to do with them. Dad was the one who finally broke the silence. Morgan, what are you going to do? I met his eyes. And for the first time in days, I didn't feel like the kid in the room. I'm not pressing charges, I said. But I've sent the file to the family attorney. What happens next, that's up to you. He nodded once. Tired. Older than I remembered. I zipped the folder shut. My hands moved without thinking. Years of meetings and evidence review made the action automatic. But this time, it felt final. You told me not to come back unless I returned the money, I said. I didn't take the money, but I brought the truth. I waited just long enough to let that sink in. Then I turned toward the door. Morgan, Mom said. Her voice cracked. I paused. Didn't look back. Thanksgiving's over, I said. You all made sure of that. I left without another word. Didn't take the folder. Didn't take the pie. Just my keys, and whatever part of me still believed they might have picked me. I didn't drive off right away. I sat in my car out front, watching the kitchen window from the curb. No one came after me. The lights stayed on. Brooke didn't laugh again. Logan didn't open the door. No one rushed out with an apology or a second thought. And that silence? That told me everything I needed to know. Back in Boston, everything felt sharper, colder, quieter. I went back to work like nothing happened. But something had shifted. I stopped calling on Sunday nights. Didn't check the group chat. Let the voicemail icon blink on my phone for 3 days before I finally listened to it. It was from Mom. Morgan, we were wrong. I know that now. I didn't want to believe it. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive us. I just wanted you to know the house feels empty. She hung up before the voicemail hit a full minute. 2 weeks went by. Then a letter came. Actual paper. Handwritten. Inside was a photo. It was a photo of me, Brooke, and Logan 6, 8, and 10 years old, sitting on the back porch in Halloween costumes that barely made sense together. I was the scarecrow. Brooke had tinfoil wings taped to her back. Logan? He was just covered in red paint, no explanation then or now. On the back, there was a single line, written in my mother's familiar hand. We didn't know how much we would miss you until you were gone. No signature. Logan never called. Brooke didn't either. But according to a cousin who still lived nearby, they both moved out not long after that night. Mom stopped speaking to them. Said she needed space. I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't offer to come back. Instead, I started something new. Nothing big. Just a weekend seminar at the local community college, Financial Protection for Older Adults. It wasn't flashy, but it was something I could control. Something that felt solid in a world that suddenly didn't. One Saturday after class, this older woman came up to me, held my hand, and said, I wish I had a daughter like you. I smiled. Polite. Didn't say what I was thinking. So did mine. Once. December passed without a tree. No calls. No ornament exchange, which I used to organize every year like clockwork. There's a kind of grief no one warns you about. Not the kind that comes with funerals or loss, but the kind that hits when you realize the people you love chose someone else's version of you over the real thing. And once they made that choice, they couldn't take it back. I still have the folder. Not in my office. Not out where I can see it. Just tucked away in a drawer by the bookshelf, under old tax returns and a copy of the mortgage. I haven't opened it since that night. I don't need to. The facts haven't changed. And neither have I.